Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen loses it over a Krabby Patty. My Karen wife loses it on me after I bought her the Krabby Patty she wanted from Wendy's. My wife has mentioned in the past that she wanted to try the Krabby Patty burger and a pineapple frosty from Wendy's. On my way home from work, I decided to surprise her. I picked up a Krabby Patty burger, a chicken sandwich for myself, and 2 pineapple frosties. I knew she was about an hour away, so I told her I had a surprise waiting for her when she got home. To keep the food fresh, I put her burger in the fridge and the frosty in the freezer. I even ordered the burger without lettuce, thinking I could avoid it getting soggy, and we have lettuce at home that we could add fresh. When she got home, she was excited about the frosty and asked, "Is there a Krabby Patty burger too?" I told her to check the fridge, and that's when things went downhill. She got upset because the burger was cold and I didn't get fries. She said that real justice would have been me waiting for her to come home so we could both get fresh food together, or at least putting my food in the fridge too, so we'd both be eating cold food. She accused me of always expecting grand thanks for doing gestures that aren't as big as I think they are, and said I didn't listen to her since she wanted the full meal, not just the burger and frosty. She also said she's not going to pretend to be grateful for something that wasn't what she asked for. I was just trying to do something nice, and now I feel like my gesture was totally unappreciated. Update. So we talked about it, and I explained that I didn't have a problem if she would have said, "I appreciate the gesture, but I would have liked to get it together," or if we could have waited until she was home. I told her I understand why she was upset, and we both agreed that there was a better way to talk about it. She took a bite just now and said, "This is just a Dave's single with fancy sauce," so she doesn't even want to eat it anymore, hot or cold. Update 2. I'm the jerk. I'll wear that hat with this one. What gesture? You picked up fast food. Don't act like you slaved away in that drive-thru. Not to mention, leftover fast food is nasty. You didn't even wait to share the meal with her. Yeah, you're the jerk. You're the jerk. There are certain fast foods I actually can't eat hours later because they just don't keep well. The gesture means nothing if it's obvious that no thought was actually put into it. Also, the way she's talking makes this sound like it's a recurring problem. You're the jerk. It's all a bit thoughtless and insensitive. You could have waited until she got home and took a little trip together to Wendy's, and on the way had a nice conversation about how your days went, and then tried the food together when it was hot and fresh. These tiny shared experiences together are what accumulate into a relationship that feels satisfying and connected. Instead, you treated yourself to hot, fresh food. She got no shared experience with you. All she got was a cold, crappy novelty fast food burger and frosty that was messed up because it was frozen. I don't believe for 1 second you would buy yourself fast food and then immediately stick it in the fridge for you to eat later. Why would you think that would be acceptable for her? I get the impression that you wanted to be thoughtful with the least amount of inconvenience or effort possible to yourself, because it would have been so easy just to wait and go eat together. And if that wasn't the intent, then you gotta start working on building the empathy that allows you to see that nobody likes cold, stale burgers. Not the jerk. Guarantee you if the roles were flipped and she had bought it for you and you acted like this, everyone would be calling you an ungrateful man-child who should go get your own fast food if you aren't happy with what she got for you. But of course, as usual, you're a dude, so you're the bad guy. And your wife acting like a petulant child throwing a fit for not getting her way is the good guy, because Reddit. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Normally, I love these kinds of special foods, but I got one yesterday, and it actually is just a Dave's single with some special sauce on it. As an avid watcher of SpongeBob growing up, I feel so insulted. Wendy's, do better. Am I the jerk for refusing full custody of my daughter after my husband asked for a divorce? My husband, Alex, who's 33, and I, 31 female, have been together for 7 years and married for 4. From the beginning of our relationship, Alex was always excited about the idea of having kids, while I was more on the fence about it. I had seen how hard it can be for single moms and had promised myself I would never be in that position. Plus, I work as a software engineer and I love my career. I didn't want to give it up to become a mom. After Alex and I got married, my fears began to fade. We were very much in love and I felt safe with him. I shared my concerns and he said all the right things to put my mind at ease. So we decided to try for a baby and had our daughter, Ramona, 2 years after we got married. The pregnancy and the first year after Ramona's birth were extremely hard on me. I had multiple health complications, some of which were life-threatening and permanently altered my body. I was disabled and nearly passed once in the 6 months following birth. During this time, my husband grew distant and angry when we would talk. I spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital, unable to work, so much of the baby care fell to him. It was all I could do just to stay alive and get better, being separated from my daughter and husband so much. Eventually, I improved enough to help more with the baby, but after I was discharged from the hospital, Alex barely spoke to me. I want to clarify that at no point did I neglect our daughter if I was able to take care of her. I leaned on him a lot during this period, but I was fighting for my health and my life so I could continue to be there for her. If I had pushed myself too hard, I would have made things worse. We remained in this state of limbo for a while. I was still recovering, not back to 100%, but able to resume a somewhat normal life, and we shared more responsibility with Ramona. I tried talking to Alex many times over the next 6 months, but he wouldn't engage. He either stayed silent or became angry, insisting I was making things up and blaming me for somehow criticizing him. It was constant deflection from whatever was bothering him. About 9 months after Ramona's birth, I found another job, and for a short while, things seemed to improve, or so I thought. Shortly after Ramona's first birthday, Alex served me with divorce papers. He said he had fallen out of love with me a long time ago and was ready to move on. I was in complete shock. Things had started to improve between us, but he explained that was because he had already decided to leave and felt less unhappy. It was a Saturday when this happened, so I made sure he would be home to care for Ramona for the weekend. Then I packed a bag and left until Sunday evening. I didn't tell him where I was going. Truthfully, I didn't really go anywhere. I just drove, crossing 2 states before I finally stopped, needing time to think. When I returned Sunday evening, he was furious that I had left him alone with her. He's always seemed put off any time he had to care for her by himself, and this time was no different. I sat him down and carefully said, "I will grant you a no-contest divorce, but I am not accepting full custody of Ramona." If he was angry before, he was explosive now. All the things he hated about me finally came out. He said I was a horrible mother, too weak to carry a baby, and now I was just leaving her. I calmly explained that I love our daughter dearly and would not leave her. I would pay child support and visit her every other weekend. I would always be there for her in any way I could, but I had been clear with him when we got married that I never wanted to be a single mom. At this point, he started flipping out. I refused to stay and deal with that, so I went to check on Ramona, kissed her, grabbed my bag, and left again. A few days later, his mother texted me. Alex had left Ramona with her for a few days, and she had some harsh words for me, saying that a mother should never leave her kid. I told her it wasn't her business and that her son doesn't get a free pass to restart his life just because his wife nearly passed during pregnancy, and he grew resentful of the responsibility. Alex has also been blowing up my phone, asking when I'm going to come back so you can take your daughter. I've only replied, "I've already told you what's going to happen here." Have you looked into adoption? I'm sure you could find a nice family for her, better than bringing her up feeling unwanted. I'm impressed with OP's ability to recognize she wouldn't be a good mother. I think not enough people have that level of introspection, but dang, what a bad situation for their daughter. It sounds like your daughter is still very young. You and your ex should do the right thing by that kid and put her up for adoption. She will then have parents who will want and love her, and she won't even remember you two. It's best all around. I know it's cold, but I agree. That kid deserves better, and if neither of them want her, then they need to own up and fully commit to those choices. Thousands of couples want to adopt and want to give Ramona the family she deserves. These two people never should have had kids, but they did. You're certainly no more of a jerk than men who do the same thing. You're not wrong for granting his wish for a divorce, and you're not wrong for not letting him be single and free of responsibility. You both brought this baby into the world, so you both are responsible for her 50-50. What exactly that responsibility looks like will be determined by the courts. But in reality, neither of you deserve this baby that you're both fighting to get rid of. Hopefully an arrangement works out where at least someone loves this baby the way that they deserve. Am I the jerk for not getting my boyfriend breakfast and sleeping instead? My boyfriend, who's 22, is upset with me, 23 female, because instead of getting him breakfast a little over an hour before I had to be at work, I decided to continue sleeping. For some context, I work from home and usually don't get up until about 10 to 15 minutes before I need to clock in. Since I work from home, and luckily don't have to be on camera, I just get up, walk my dog, wash my face, and clock in. The night before, my boyfriend mentioned he wanted me to wake up an hour before work to grab him breakfast. I politely told him I wouldn't be waking up to get him breakfast because I try to sleep as long as possible. I'm a very light sleeper, and multiple times throughout the night I wake up due to even the smallest noise, and sometimes it's hard for me to fall back asleep. This is why I try to get as much sleep as possible. This morning, my boyfriend woke me up when he got up for the day, which was over an hour before I had to be up. I quickly ran to the bathroom and was heading back to bed when my boyfriend stopped me and said he wanted me to get him breakfast. I told him I wanted to go back to sleep since I had to be up soon for work and that I was going to lie back down, which I did. I woke up a little over an hour later to my alarm, got up and did my normal routine. I tried talking to my boyfriend, but he was ignoring me and acting very pouty. He continued this behavior until he left for work, leaving without saying a word. I called him after he left and asked why he was acting that way. After being standoffish for about 5 minutes on the phone, he said he was upset because all he wanted was for me to get him food before work, and I chose to sleep instead of getting him food. We're currently sharing one car, so I'm unable to grab food and drop it off at his workplace. I offered to DoorDash him food, but he told me no and that he couldn't eat at work because he was super busy. I then offered to buy him lunch from anywhere he wanted, but he turned that down, saying he would be too busy to eat. Am I the jerk because I didn't get him breakfast and chose to sleep? I feel conflicted because maybe I should have just gotten up instead of sleeping and got him food. Edit. I've been getting a lot of questions about whether it was a special day or if something different happened. Nope, it was not a special day, just another Friday. I actually bought groceries yesterday and included some breakfast items. Edit 2. Does he randomly buy me breakfast? No, he doesn't. When we have breakfast, I'm usually the one to grab it or cook it. Was he busy? When I woke up, he was sitting on his gaming table watching TikTok, so I assume he wasn't busy. But I'm not exactly sure how his work days go, as one day can be super busy and the next not so much. Why couldn't he pick it up on his way to work? I asked him this question, and he told me he didn't want his clothes to smell like food. How do I have enough time to walk my dog? In the morning, we do a very quick bathroom break. I take her out multiple times throughout the day since I work from home, and we go for a long walk late at night. Why did he need you to get him breakfast this day? What does he usually do about breakfast? OP. He didn't need me to. He just wanted me to. He had 2 hours before he had to be into work. He even decided to go into work 30 minutes early. I'm not sure what he does for breakfast. He usually leaves before I'm awake, just on certain days he doesn't have to go in early. He was testing you. There's an awful lot of these going around on TikTok these days about testing your spouse's love. So he could be doing that because he's dumb and spends too much time online. Are you his girlfriend or his mommy? He pouts when you don't do what he wants? I hope he's really wealthy or something because this sounds crazy. He can wake up, get dressed, drive to work, hold a job for a while, drive back home, but he can't make his own breakfast? Sorry to tell you this, but your boyfriend is not a real man. Make your own breakfast, you lazy jerk. Not the jerk. Look, I make my husband lunches at 6 a.m. every morning for work when I don't have to be up until about 7:30. I do it because I know he appreciates it and he's busy getting ready and doing stuff with the dogs in the morning. He also does a lot for our family, so even though I work full-time too, I don't mind. But your boyfriend is a giant baby who could have gotten himself food or had it delivered. Instead, he's trying to control you and see how much he can get you to bend. I'd bet good money and my therapy career that later he'll say, I was testing to see if you were wifey material. Am I the jerk because I won't let friends decide who gets me in their divorce? I, female, had a very good friend, John, in high school. He started dating Jane. We're all the same age. In college, I met and married my husband. We all went to the same college and got along famously. It was really the most ideal situation ever. One night, now 15 years into our friendship and 11 years into my marriage, I hear the phone, and my husband is basically flying out the door in the dead of the night. I asked what's going on. He said he couldn't tell me and was super uncomfortable with the situation. I saw his phone said it was John. He apologized profusely, said he didn't know what to do, could only say he promised not to tell, and left. I sat up waiting for hours, wondering what had happened. My mind was spinning. Long story short, Jane had been cheating on John and had a hysterectomy behind his back. John left her and gathered his friends to tell them. When my husband came home, he was surprised I was still up. Apparently, Jane was supposed to meet with me and her other friends, but she had passed out, messing up the plan to tell everyone at the same time. I confronted John, saying I had been friends with him before Jane, before anyone in the group. Not only that, but he got my husband to lie to me, which I found unacceptable. He said they agreed Jane could have me in the divorce, so he didn't know what else to do. She doesn't have much family and now has fewer, if any, friends. John desperately wanted a big family, and now that's gone. They both knew I wouldn't forgive something like this easily. Even if I did, it's my choice who I decide to keep or not keep as my friends. I'm not property to be divided. I let it go because I knew John was devastated. They had been trying to conceive, and the whole time it was a lie. My husband and I talked. I don't approve of what happened, but he thought I'd be getting my own call, and that I'd be confused and worried for minutes, not hours. Moving forward, John says I need to be there for Jane. He invites my husband out, but not me. We're both devastated that our whole social group is imploding. My husband went to a few outings to support John and to give him time. It's been 6 months, and I still haven't been invited. John has said he has nothing against me in this. Jane came clean, and no one in my group is suspected of covering up for her. She simply asked for me, and John felt it was the least he could do. The group is divided. Some say I should be there for Jane. I've known her most of my life, and they believe she shouldn't have to start from scratch without any friends after a divorce. But on the secret hysterectomy alone, I just can't respect her anymore. I don't want her as a friend, but I'm the only one she asked for. Anyone causing division between me and my spouse would be getting cut off. I do not care what their personal problem is. Do not bring that drama to my home and relationship. I would be cutting John and Jane off if they think this is an acceptable way to treat a person, let alone two people who are a married couple, period. My family sold my rock collection when I went to college. What am I supposed to do? I, 19 female, am a college freshman, and I'm currently visiting my mom over break. When I got there, I saw a crystal that was in my old room on display and asked about it. My mom then told me that the rest were gone after the yard sale. For context, my parents were moving at the same time I was getting ready for college, so the house was in chaos. I had a rock collection that I had been growing for around 10 years, which had cost me over $1,000. Some were gifts from old friends or family, some I had found in special destinations of significance, and all of them were important to me. Since the collection took up 2 cabinets, I knew I couldn't take it to my dorm room and decided to pack them up. My brother also likes rocks, so I thought he would be a good fit to look after them while I couldn't, or at least until I decorated my room when my parents bought a house. Apparently, my brother picked through the boxes and told my mother to sell everything he didn't want to keep. My aunt and mother took a few pieces that they liked, but hundreds of rocks were either donated or sold, with none of the profit going to me and without my knowledge. When I learned this, I broke down into tears. I know they're just rocks, but they brought me a lot of happiness, and I can't believe they're just gone. Writing this out is making me cry again. My mother feels really sorry, and I don't blame anyone for this, but I'm crushed. How do I deal with this loss and not take it out on my family? I'm not mad at anyone, I just wish I had explained better or something, and I don't want my family to think I'm angry with them. Edit. My family didn't mean to steal, they just assumed I was giving them away. It wasn't necessarily malicious, but it was definitely wrong. Also, I think the reason I'm struggling to be mad is that my mom and I have a really good relationship. She's the person I can always rely on, and I'm really hoping the situation is a misunderstanding that I see it as. Thank you for your replies. I haven't had anyone to talk to about this since all my friends are busy, and the only other people around me are my family. Edit 2. My parents are well off, so I don't think they sold them for the money. Any money made was probably put into household funds, and I doubt they made $1,000 off the items. That's just how much I estimate I've spent. I would feel very guilty asking them for that much, especially since they are paying for my college, so I'm thinking about maybe asking them to buy something of equivalent value. I've never had to bargain with my parents, so I'm not sure how it will go. I'm going to talk to them tonight since my dad is here now. I'm going to take the advice of writing something out to read to them. All the people saying I'm a pushover are 100% correct, but I'm going to try not to be when I talk to them. Edit 3. I just talked to my parents and used a kind of long speech that included some specific memories I had connected to the rocks and asked to be compensated financially for the loss. I was crying the whole time, so I'm not sure how much of it they understood. Surprisingly, they're completely willing to pay me back for it, and my parents were both genuinely sorry and admitted it was their fault. They told me they were surprised that I didn't want the rocks, but at the same time, I was giving away other sentimental things like stuffed animals that they thought I would have kept. Because of this, they didn't think to call me to confirm since the times they had with other things I had agreed. They said they're going to get everything back from my aunt and brother. My mom has already rounded up what she took, and they want to take me rock shopping for the rest of the weekend we have together. This has been such a chaotic day for me, and I never expected so many people to reach out. For those suggesting it, I'm looking into therapy. I think my issues with confrontation and social pressure in general warrant some professional help. My dad actually noted that he was proud of me for bringing it up to them the way I did. I'm going to be a combination of mad and sad for a while, but now it isn't all stuck inside me. Why don't you blame anyone? You should blame all of them. Why shouldn't you be angry? They took your property and pilfered through it and sold the rest and kept the money. They didn't even ask you what you wanted done with your collection. Tell your mom they had no right to do that and that they need to make amends. Whatever rocks they kept, they need to return. Whatever money they got should be given to you. Am I the jerk for lying to my wife's friends after an argument? My wife, who's 39, and I, 40 male, have been married for 8 years and we have a 4-year-old son. We both work full-time and have a good handle on household duties and expectations. My wife has been really busy at her job the past 6 weeks or so. Her job does a lot of seasonal work, and this time of the year is among their busiest. They hire a lot of seasonal workers to help, and they held a party/happy hour for them last week. The week before the party, my wife was at a work conference for 4 days while I was holding down the home front. The day of the party, she told me that she would only stay until 6 or 7 so she could be home for our son's bedtime. I went about our normal evening routine with our son and got a text from my wife at 7:15 telling me that she was just wrapping up and would be home soon. I put our son to bed and started doing some cleaning. The next thing I know, it's 9 p.m. and my wife isn't home, so I text her to see if she's okay. She called back a few minutes later and told me she was still talking with people but would be heading home soon. I was a little frustrated and annoyed by this. When she got home, I told her that I would appreciate a little more communication from her if her plans were going to change like that. She got defensive and told me that I was not supporting her and that she needed to feel like she had the freedom and agency to do social things without me policing and parenting her. She said she had simply lost track of time. I told her that 90 minutes was a long time to lose track of and that it takes 20 seconds to send a text. She got mad and went off to bed. That weekend, she had a few friends over for cocktails. My wife was inside doing something, so I went out to the patio and said hi to her friends. I then asked them if I could get their opinion on a disagreement my wife and I had. I told them the story about my wife's work party, but lied and told them it was me who had stayed out without updating my plans. They started going off on me for not respecting my wife enough to give her an update after 90 minutes, and they said that even though it's important for parents to have social time, I needed to recognize that the only way I could do that was by my wife staying home with our son. They all told me I owed my wife an apology and that I needed to do better. In the middle of their admonishment, my wife came out and asked what we were talking about. One of her friends said that I had just told them about the party the previous week and they were telling me I needed to apologize. My wife looked confused and said, "But I was the one who had the work party." I was sitting there with a little smirk on my face and my wife got upset. Her friends did too. Her friends told me I was a jerk for lying to them and tricking them. I asked them if their advice still applied to my wife and they all got defensive and tried to change their stories. My wife got upset because I embarrassed her. Everyone sucks here. Look, I get how people can lose track of time and it's a very minor incident, but if your partner has a conversation with you about it, not apologizing and trying to minimize and then victim blame is toxic behavior. Additionally, relationships aren't group projects and involving her friends at any level was inappropriate. At the same time, them demanding you apologize and then actively bringing it up to your wife demonstrates that they are deeply annoying and toxic people that I wouldn't even want to be around. You're the jerk. You brought her friends into a marital disagreement. You lied. You embarrassed your wife to score some petty points. If this is your general behavior, it's no wonder they were so quick to condemn you. People often factor the people involved in a scenario when making a decision like this. She lost track of 90 minutes, and you, by your own admission, had everything under control, so why was it important in the first place? Unpopular opinion, but not the jerk. Was it manipulative? Yes. Was it petty? Yes. Did it prove your point and their double standard? Yes. Honestly, wife should have accepted some accountability and say that she would do better next time. But getting defensive and angry means she's going to do it again, so I get wanting to make your point. Am I the jerk for taking my daughter's college fund back after she said she was going no contact? I'm 45 female. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. Ella, who's 18, and Jake, who's 16. My husband passed when the kids were young, and I've worked extremely hard to support them, both emotionally and financially. He left behind a life insurance policy, and I've been saving part of that money for their college education. Since she was little, Ella has always dreamed of going to a prestigious college. We've had many talks about how important education is, and I made sure she knew the fund I was building for her and Jake was specifically for their education. I couldn't afford luxuries like vacations or new cars, but I wanted to make sure they wouldn't be burdened with student loans. Recently though, things have become strained with Ella. She started dating a guy, Matt, who's 19, a few months ago, and I feel like her personality has completely changed since then. She's become distant, rude, and dismissive of anything I say. She said hurtful things like I smother her or treat her like a kid. I've tried giving her space, but last week during a particularly bad argument, She said she was going no contact with me once she went to college and would never look back. I was devastated. After everything I've sacrificed, hearing that she'd cut me out was heartbreaking. I didn't want to react out of emotion, so I waited a few days to cool off. Eventually, I made the decision that if she truly wants nothing to do with me, I wasn't going to fund her education. I told her if she's planning to go no contact with me after college, she should consider her fund off the table and not split it between Jake and myself for other things. She exploded, calling me vindictive, manipulative, and selfish. She thinks I'm trying to control her by dangling the money over her head. I talked to a few friends about this, and reactions have been mixed. Some say I'm within my rights because the money is mine and I can do with what I see fit. Others say I'm punishing her for her feelings and that I'm being controlling by using the money as leverage. So, am I the jerk for taking back my daughter's college fund after she said she was going no contact with me? Update. As for the money, I'm going to hold on to it for now until I figure out if she's just being a brat or influenced by her boyfriend, but I won't spend it on Jake or myself. To those saying I must be controlling, I want to make it clear that I've never used the college fund to try to control her. The idea of withholding the money didn't even come up until she said she wanted to go no contact. There are two big questions here. 1. Is it the new boyfriend's influence? Or 2. Is there an ongoing underlying issue with you and your daughter that you're either not mentioning or not addressing? No contact would mean no financial contact too. Why is your daughter so surprised that you'd financially cut her off when she cuts contact with you? I have this feeling the new boyfriend is stupid enough to think OP is going to transfer hundreds of thousands of dollars to the daughter to pay for a full college degree, money that I'm sure he has plans for, and it's not the daughter's tuition and board. Karen Fiance demands I buy gifts for her kid too. I'm 30, male. My daughter, who's 14, her Nintendo Switch completely stopped working earlier this week. She got it in the month it was released, of March 2017, and has kept it in good condition for over 6 years. Yesterday, she had her conference cross-country meet, where she both PR'd and qualified to run state. To celebrate her new achievements, I took her out to eat and then bought her a new Nintendo Switch with a game she picked out. My fiance, who's 38, came back from her parents earlier today and saw my daughter playing with her Switch. She asked me about it after my daughter left with her boyfriend, and I told her that I wanted to celebrate her accomplishments in her running career, so I got her a new Switch as a gift. Fiance then got really angry and told me that if I'm going to buy my daughter something, then I have to be fair and buy her kids, who are 19, 16, and 13, something too. I pointed out that I do buy her kids gifts when they reach goals and achievements too. For example, I bought my stepdaughter an inexpensive Hello Kitty necklace as a high school graduation gift, and I let both the boys pick out 2 video games when they both passed their final exams. She told me that it's unfair I spend more on my daughter than I do on her kids because I make a lot more than her. Fiance then got angrier and accused me of not liking her kids because of the different financial treatment between her kids and mine. She left with her 2 sons, but her daughter stayed with me at the house because she's on my side. I got a bunch of texts from her family calling me a selfish jerk for treating her kids differently when buying them gifts. Am I the jerk? Edit. To answer some common questions, because there's a lot of comments and it's hard to get them in a timely manner. How does your fiance treat your daughter? My daughter and fiance don't interact much. They're both polite to each other, but they simply don't talk much aside from small talk and my daughter asking her some questions about cooking food. I've mentioned to my daughter before that if my fiance were to ever mistreat her, she needs to tell me and I will always have her back no matter what. To my knowledge, my fiance doesn't do this at all. They just don't talk much. Do you have a will or a trust fund in place? I have a will set up that gives my daughter everything. My will is safe with a very trusted lawyer friend of mine. I also have a trust in place for my daughter, and she will gain full access to it once she turns 21. Did you have this argument in front of her kids? No, she called her kids down and told them what we were arguing about. I told them my side, and her sons took her side and left with her. What's your relationship like with her kids? How are they with your daughter? My relationship with her sons is unfortunately minimal. I try to talk to them about their favorite topics or hobbies, and they either ignore me or shut the conversation down as soon as possible. I don't talk to them much either, other than when they do come to me for advice on things like school, friends, etc. My relationship with our older daughter is very good though. I'd like to think that we're close. As for my daughter, she doesn't talk to her stepbrothers much, but she's extremely close with her older stepsister. I hope this helps clear some things up. Update. She came back at 12 in the morning alone. She said she left the boys at her parents' place because she doesn't, in her words, want them in the presence of a man who won't provide for them. I sat her down and talked to her about a lot of things, and a lot of you were right. This is not the woman I want to marry. Gee, you think? When I first brought up how she doesn't bring anything to the table when I pay for everything, she didn't want to talk about it and kept dodging the subject. I brought up how unfair it was of her to expect me to provide for her and her kids when she doesn't do anything for my daughter and the bare minimum for me. She doesn't do house chores, she doesn't pay bills, except her and her daughter's car payments and car insurance, and she spends minimal time with both me and my daughter. Fiance didn't say anything. Then I talked about the financial and emotional issues, and she freaked out. She started yelling about how it was my job as the man to provide for her and her kids, when I make so much more than her and they have no father figure. I'm all they had, and she kept bringing that up as an excuse for her behavior towards my money and how I spent it on my daughter. When I asked her what she expected me to do about my will or a prenup, she told me that any good husband would put his wife above everything else. She had been banking on me giving her everything I had for over a year at this point. I don't like yelling at all, but I was at my breaking point with her at this point. We yelled at each other a lot. It's not my finest moment, and I'm ashamed, but I realized that I let so much happen and my daughter suffered as a result of it. I told her that I wasn't going to tolerate her any longer. My daughter's my #1 priority over anyone else and will always be. I don't think Fiance believed me when I said that, but I guess she realized I was serious when I told her to start packing. I'm done being an ATM for that lady, and it's crazy to think how strangers on an app made me realize how I was stuck in a toxic, manipulative, and mistreating relationship with her. My now ex, Fiance, won't be a problem anymore, I hope. I don't think I'll be with another person for a long time, but thank you to everyone for the support and kindness. Edit. If anyone has any questions, ask me and I'll answer. Edit 2. My ex's daughter will be staying with me, and I will financially support her through college, and I will also help her get her own place. Her and I are on good terms, and I want to make sure my ex will not be using her as a token to manipulate me any further. Not the jerk. You're not even married, and already this kind of drama has started? Red flag. If she's that particular, she can buy them gifts as well. Or you both could discuss and get all the kids appropriate gifts together. Not the jerk. And if you want foreshadowing of what to expect if you proceed with marriage, you've got it right here. Red flags. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.